What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to Bad Trader, where today, as the series name suggests, we're going to be talking about some bad trading practices. More specifically, letting your emotions bleed into your trades too much, revenge trading, all of that good stuff. Highly topical in this new environment where the PDT rule has been removed. I'm joined as always by my risk and reward co-host, Errol Coleman. Errol, I'm sure you've had a few experiences with revenge trading in your life.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, those emotions can get the best of you sometimes. So, especially with the PDT rule going away, and this is a very topical conversation to be having today. So, looking forward to it.
It is, and the scariest part to me is that you don't usually realize that you're doing it in the moment. We're gonna get into that a little bit more in depth here in a minute, but it's nobody wakes up in the morning and says, "I'm gonna revenge trade today."
Yeah, 100%.
It's just one of those things that happens. So let's we'll dive right into the meat and potatoes here. Something you constantly hear as a trader is that you shouldn't let your emotions bleed into your trading practices, but that's much easier said than done. Even the most experienced veteran traders will sometimes feel elated after winning a trade, dejected after losing one. The key is that veteran traders know to take a break when they feel those emotions, while novice traders will lean into them, and believe me, I certainly did when I was a novice trader. And the scariest thing about revenge trading, as I just alluded to, is that in the moment, most traders don't even realize that they're doing it. Nobody wakes up and says, today I'm going to abandon my entire trading plan and let my emotions guide me, but that's what happens. So today we're going to discuss 5 ways revenge trading can quietly destroy your performance, often before you even realize that it's happening. So before we get into this, what do you think some topics on this list are going to be?
I'm going to say maybe something to do with having a trading process, stepping outside of your trading process.
Fast forward to the end there, actually.
Okay. I know emotions can be a little bit of a snowball effect into the market too, so I think sometimes the first domino can fall, whatever that might look like in your trading, and then it's many other dominoes from there, and it's kind of that snowball effect that gets a little bit worse as time goes on, depending on if you can catch those behaviors. But I think an element of self-awareness too. I don't know if you're going to touch on all of those things, but that's what comes to mind right off the bat.
Yeah, you kind of drilled it. We didn't reherse this before, but you really did. That's like 3 of the 5 things that we're going to get into here.
Ding, ding.
Yeah. So to start out, point number one, revenge trading can turn a bad trade into a bad day. All right, losing trades is a business expense. Nobody's going to be perfect all the time. We all lose. It's part of the game. But the issue is when you decide that one loss isn't allowed to exist, which is exactly what revenge trading is. So the moment you stop asking, is this a good trade, and start asking, how do I get my money back, the goalposts have moved, and you're in a dangerous mental state. And it's certainly one that I've found myself in before. The market doesn't know that you're down. The only person trying to get that money back is you. That's, I think, kind of the crux of all that. Yeah. And that's something that I've definitely done, in particular when I was first starting out, is I would often find myself saying, okay, well, this is my profit target for the day, but I don't have a stop loss for the day. And so suddenly I'm down $200-300, and I'm thinking, okay, how do I get back to my profit target? I'm not thinking, what's the process? Is this a good trade? The goalpost move.
100%. And it's funny because you said, is this a good trade? I think one thing that gets misconstrued a lot of the times in the market is the fact that a good trade means that it was a winning trade. I think you can take good trades that you lose money on. You could also take bad trades that you make money on.
Yes.
So I think that can get a little bit it can be murky waters sometimes. I think we need to be able to differentiate the two, but it's a good point that you're making.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point that you make as well, that it's not every good trade isn't going to win. Sometimes you can do everything right and still be wrong. That's the nature of the market, and you can't find yourself chasing those losses.
Yeah, 100%.
Rule number 2, dopamine makes you chase action, not opportunity. I really like this one. It's very interesting. It dives into the psychological side of revenge trading. One of the biggest misconceptions is that these trades are always driven by anger, but often they can just be driven by a desire for stimulation. When you take a loss, your brain wants quick relief, and placing another trade can make it feel like you're doing something productive, or at least distract you from the negative feelings following a loss, because there's some more adrenaline going. You're thinking forward a little bit, and that desire to chase something else will lead you into bad setups, and that effect can snowball, as you hit the nail on the head earlier. When you lose a trade with a great setup, then you immediately get into one with an okay setup, and you lose that. So then you place one with a bad setup, and all of a sudden you're way worse off than you would have been had you just stopped after the first time.
And in 9 times out of 10, whenever you recognize those things, you're going to go back and be like, man, I would have accepted that initial loss. Like that initial loss looks and feels so much better than where I put myself now. But yeah, it's the worst. It's that snowball effect that you just kind of alluded to again. And I think that, I think the foundation is important. And I think going in with the mindset of, number one, what even is opportunity? And you can go into the mindset of chasing profits rather than opportunity. And I think we can put such a focus on the outcome. And I think that's like the first mistake before the trading day even starts, is focusing on the outcome, focusing on making money rather than just kind of continuously following that strict process that you have for yourself and accepting whatever the market gives you and going on about your day.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, and alluding to my earlier example, it's like if your first trade of the day, you lose $200, it can be so easy to say, oh, let me get into something else to make that $200 back. Then 3 trades later, you're down $800 and you're saying, man, I wish I was only down $200 right now. I would love a $600 winner right now
right?
to get me back to my original loss.
Yeah.
So it's important to just always have perspective, and no one trade is more important than any other.
100%.
Rule number 3. You start trading your profit and loss instead of the market. And this is one of the most relatable concepts to me. We've touched on it multiple times already just throughout the course of this. It's something that I've definitely fallen victim to more than a few times. If you lose a trade or find yourself down on the day, you're much more likely to force something because you're reacting to your account and not reacting to the market. If you ever find yourself looking at your P&L more than you're looking at the market, it's seriously time to take a break and reevaluate. And that's such a big thing. It's what we just talked about. The process needs to define the trades that you're putting on, not the results.
Absolutely. I mean, even in the management of those trades, it's like, should I take this money off the table now while I'm in a live trade? It's like, sure, the green's not going to necessarily hurt you. I mean, it really depends on the trades that you took prior to that. But at the end of the day, trading the P&L is probably one of the most and easiest mistakes to make. It's a very logical mistake to make. Like, just, if I'm up a certain amount, like, you're not really thinking about the math and how that's going to work out in the end. So it's definitely easier said than done.
Yeah, and that can absolutely happen to the upside too. If your profit target is, say, $500 a day and you're up $350, you don't have to force another trade to try to close that gap. It happens on both sides of the equation. And the human psyche is so interesting like that because if your profit target is, say, $500 for the day, if you're up $490, like, that can be infuriating.
Yeah.
Like you're like, it's just 10. Like, let me just try to find this other $10 somewhere here real quick. But it's important, to just always
that round
turn
number
back to the process. Yeah, exactly. You really want to get over that threshold. You feel like you're just short, and it's important whether you're up or down to not let those emotions.
And you end the day red, and you're like, I would have stopped at 490. Give me the 490.
Yes.
Now I'm asking. I just want to be break even today.
Yeah, exactly. It can even be frustrating on the much more micro. You're at 490, you want 500, so you get into something and then you lose $20.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh man, now I want that 30. It's it's a tough spot.
I got to get back to 490.
Yeah, got to be very cognizant of your emotions and careful with those things. Rule number 4. Position size quietly starts expanding, another one that I have definitely fallen victim to before. It's easy to think of revenge trading as scaling up in size insanely fast and blowing your whole account in 1 or 2 trades, but in reality, it's usually a lot more subtle than that. Maybe you usually size your trades at $200, and to revenge trade, you say, oh, well, I really like this spot. I'm going to place a trade for $300 or $500. And that snowball will continue, and suddenly you're trading way larger than your usual size and telling yourself you really like the setup, but in reality, you're just trying to accelerate your recovery. Your portfolio can easily survive one bad trade if you're sizing appropriately, but what blows up accounts is when you start increasing size to solve your emotional problems.
Yeah.
And that's one, I've definitely done this before. And especially the part about gaslighting yourself of, I really like this position. I like this one more than the first trade that I placed. And you really don't, but it's crazy how you really can convince yourself that that's the case.
And I mean, leverage is a great tool when used properly.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, leverage can work in your favor, but leverage can work against you just as quick, if not quicker. Because then if something goes against you, again, that emotion gets heightened, and then you can kind of spiral. And then things can just get worse and worse and snowball in the wrong direction from there. But position sizing probably is the kryptonite or antidote for, I would say, 90 to 99% of trading issues. And I think even if you hesitate getting into a position, I think the antidote for that is to size down. If you have a difficult time being able to let your trade play all the way through, size down. If you have a difficult time letting your trade hit your stop loss, size down. So at the end of the day, I do think that position sizing is probably number one. And I think that, especially as somebody like a beginner, especially if you have less than $25,000 in your account and you have this freedom to day trade as much as you want now, if you have less than $25,000, there's a good chance you may not be at the experience level where you're comfortable putting on any type of risk. So I think sometimes what can happen too is losing your account before you've learned all the necessary lessons that you need to learn. So I think position sizing is going to be number one, and I'll leave it that way.
Yeah, I think that's a great point as well. There's no teacher like experience, especially in the markets, but you have to make sure that your bankroll can sustain long enough for you to actually
it's like
get
you're going to blow your account. You haven't even learned half the lessons you need to learn. You don't got an account anymore.
Yes.
You know what I mean? At
exactly.
least, churn through that slower. The level of capital you're trading with right now is not going to be the same level of capital you're going to be trading in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. So use that account, just gain the experience, learn the process, stick to the process, learn your emotions. become a little bit numb to it and just only focus on the process, because all the great points that you've already made down this list, I think they can all affect you. But once again, position size, maybe number one.
Yeah.
You know, because you can make all the mistakes that you want to make all day if you have the correct position size, but you still want the ability to be able to trade at least tomorrow or next week or a month from now. So even if there's a day where I'm feeling a little bit more emotional and I'm putting on 10, 15, 20, I'm trading outside of my trading process, if I have the correct size, I should be able to trade tomorrow again and then come back to my senses. Now, doing something like that, you might have to take a week off.
Of course.
But at least it gives you the time to come back to your senses.
Yeah, and as long as you have the right size and stick to your rules, too.
Absolutely.
You know, if 20% is your usual stop loss, don't start holding things until 50, hoping that they'll rebound. You know, it's
100%.
yeah, gotta have both.
Yeah.
The last one, rule number 5, the sneakiest one, the real sauce. Winning doesn't fix revenge trading. And I think that this is one that often slides under the radar. It's definitely the sneakiest one of the bunch. Yeah. Most people think revenge trading is bad because it loses money, which often can be true, but I'd argue it's actually more dangerous when it works. When you win a revenge trade, that bad behavior is rewarded, and then consciously or subconsciously, you will note that breaking those good practices got you back to green.
I love this one.
This creates a cycle where every future drawdown becomes an invitation to trade emotionally, which is a very dangerous spot to be in.
I love the point that you're making right now.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the stock market is the one place where you can do the wrong thing and have positive reinforcement behind it. You know what I'm saying? I can take risks that I know I shouldn't be taking, and I can get rewarded for it. Like that is, if there's one place that happens, I mean, of course, that's the stock market. And that, to the point that you said, it can be one of the most dangerous things. I mean, it's teaching you and conditioning you on a subconscious level that you can be rewarded for doing the wrong thing, and you're gonna be more likely to do that again if you're rewarded for it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like we talked about earlier, you can place good trades that lose, and likewise, you can place bad trades that win. It can happen.
Gotta pound the table for that one.
Yeah,
absolutely great.
It can happen both ways, and it's scary when those bad trades start winning, and you start thinking, especially as a beginner when you don't know any better, that like this is something you can do to get out of these, because one of these times you will get burnt, and when it happens, it'll be bad.
And then it makes you believe you just saved yourself.
Yes.
You didn't. You just got lucky in the market, took you out of that position, but the market's going to teach you real quick. And another thing as well is, like, if you think you got away with anything in the market, got away with these profits, just know you didn't get away with anything. The market's going to come snatch what you made next week if you made it outside of your process or whatever it might be.
Perhaps this rule, this picture behind us right now, this rule heavily applies. This could be you. You know, you're chasing and you finally win the bad trade, but it doesn't mean that it's good behavior, and it's not going to be successful in the long run.
And you're more likely to do the same exact thing again because you just got yourself out of that position. You made that money. Next time your mind is teetering between should I do this or should I not, when you know you shouldn't. If it worked for you in the past, you're going to be more likely to pull the trigger and commit that same bad habit.
Precisely.
It's a great point.
So to bring it all together, all 5 of these points can really be summed up in one sentence, and we've danced around this sentence a lot throughout the course of this video. Good traders focus on the process, bad traders focus on the outcomes. Put more directly, the fastest way to recover from a bad trade is usually to stop trying to recover from it at all. Every trade has to stand on its own merit, and if you stick to good practices consistently, you'll be much better off in the long run.
Well said.
Yeah.
Very well put. I think this list was pretty spot on. I think if somebody's looking forward to the PDT rule being gone, Trader Liberation Day, I think this is the type of points that you need to hear. So I think you did a great job really putting it together. So thanks for doing that for us.
Of course.
Trading community.
Yes, and these are all just big things to keep in mind, especially as the PDT rule moves away, as Errol alluded to. If you're somebody who's been just sticking to your 3-day trades a week this entire time, and suddenly you can place 30 a day if you want, it's just so important to remember that the process is much more important than the outcomes, and there may be days where there is not a day trade that presents itself at all that is worth taking, and on those days it's really important to stick to your process, sit on your hands, and wait for better opportunities.
That's boring though.
It is. That's the challenging part. It is very boring. But that's all we're going to have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the Tasty Live YouTube channel so you don't miss out on what we have coming up next, and turn on those post notifications if you really want to stay involved. That's all from us from Bad Trader today. We'll see you guys next time.